All right, welcome to the Clutch Burners podcast, your home for stick shift drag racing, stick shift tech, and of course, a couple of stick shift guys that look really good, including our guest tonight. Like, you're not going to believe his fresh haircut. So over there somewhere, which I think it's there, that's Rich, my buddy, the Canadian Chuck Norris.
And over there is the nasally Bang Shift Billy today.
Yes, little nasally tonight. That is for sure. And tonight we have Misters PFI Speed. We have Jamie Lankford and Brent Leivestad. Leivestad, yes. All right. So I actually have a story tonight, and Rich normally kicks off the stories, but I went and did some December no prep in Colorado, which is kind of unbelievable. I was even able to get out of my driveway, but went down to Pueblo yesterday for some no prep stuff. And really it was just for me to just feel better about how bad the Oklahoma trip went for me. I didn't break anything, but the performance was really poor. And I should have just gone down to Evergreen Lake and raced on the ice because it was so slippery. It was like 40 degrees and concrete, and they raced on the back half of the track. And I tell you what, I have so much respect for these guys that do no prep stuff. I was telling Rich, like I tried 3,000 RPM. I pulled every bit of power out of it I could, and it was still spinning on the hit. Like, it didn't matter. I think according to the Draggy, my best run yesterday was a 693. For a car that's gone 570s before, yeah, it was a little interesting. When you're waiting to shift and it's like, it just took a lot of time. But like there was and I'm sorry I don't know the guy's name, but there was a guy down there with an RX-7 with an LS swap yesterday. Man, when
That's
that thing
Hayden.
was, what's that?
That's Hayden.
Yeah, that car was awesome. Like, you watch the videos and that front end, it just comes up like, what do they call it? The Carolina squat.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous. That thing just transferred the weight and just wrinkled up the tires. I was like, wow, that was super impressive. So that's my story for today.
Yeah. How much front end travel? How much front end travel do you have, Bill?
Less than 3 inches. Yeah. that would be, and I did spend a bit of time today researching how to increase travel of a Mustang 2 front end. And guess what I found? A whole lot of nothing. So a strut conversion would be great, but I don't really do no prep stuff. And at a prep track, especially the real high power cars, they have front end limiters and stuff like that, and 3 inches seems to be fine there. So I just have a lot more to learn about chassis stuff, and these guys drive with the wrong end here, but maybe they can still lend some information to that. So let me hand it over to Brent and Jamie. I'm really excited you guys are here. This is going to be awesome. Look at the background.
Yeah, we're excited.
I mean, just look at the background you guys have. It's interesting, that red Honda that you have. Normally that hole in the bumper for the tow hook is not that big. What's up with that?
It's the turbo hole. We just hang it right out the front.
Nice. Awesome. All right, guys. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your business, etc. And I'm gonna mute my mic here and cough a little bit.
So I've had PFI for it's about 25 years now, 26 years. I've been doing this, and I started off by slinging used parts, and kind of grew into the performance stuff. And then I've kind of just grown with that. And when I was selling used parts, we were selling the Honda and Acura used parts. So the Honda stuff was just kind of what I grew into, and I just learned to love it. So we started front wheel drive drag racing back in about 96. And, we grew with NHRA and IDRC and NOPI and all these other classes. And then NHRA went away, and a lot of our racing went away, but I never quit. Because I loved it. So I just kept on trucking and tuning cars and building things. And then I ran into this guy, and honestly, he and I have pushed pushed it. And now we're really starting to rock and really getting this car figured out and going fast. So
we've really been working on getting a bunch of like classes and stuff back for front wheel drive stuff. You know, I remember at the beginning of the race week stuff, we didn't really have a class. You know, with our front wheel drive cars, you have to run a slick. You know, a radial tire, you're just going to tear stuff up and you're not going anywhere. So there wasn't really a slick class that we fit in, and the weight of stick shift was like 1,000 pounds more than our cars weigh. So we went to all the other drivers in the class and talked to them, and you guys actually welcomed us with open arms. You know, everybody was a little skeptical at first. I remember that. I remember that first drivers meeting. Bill was kind of skeptical on it, but you know, it works out. We aren't trying to run away with the class or anything, and honestly, we really can't in a front wheel drive car like that. But it gave us a home.
Wait a minute.
Kind of race.
Wait a minute. Yeah, hold on here.
How fast has that red car behind you been?
I think I have the time slip now.
It's been 820 at 182.
182.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And our long-term goal is we want to do a race week car that runs 8s at every event, front wheel drive. So, I mean, we have goals for all of that too, you know.
Rich, did we talk about letting them in the class at 26? What is it, 2,600 pounds? You guys have to be.
No, so our class rules are mostly 22 to 2,400 pounds. 2,400 is like where we're at, and if you look at our cars, like we cut a lot of weight out of them. Our weight bias is totally different. We hang as much as we can off the front. We try and low. We try and get like 80% front weight bias. So we cut as much as we can out of the car, and then there's actually a weight plate that we weld on the front that's like 300 pounds just to try and get traction. So, you know, the street classes, they're like 2,200 pounds, but like the bigger race car classes, the weight's 2,400 pounds for us.
So Sick Week doesn't really have I think if you're small block, there is no weight limit for Sick Week like there is for race week, right? Like you can weigh shit. If you want, you can split your block in half and put half over there and still, I got to tell a funny story because, I drove all the way to Sick Week. And as soon as I got there was rumors flying around about you, Jamie.
Yeah.
And it was like, he just went 880 with that car. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good time. And I mean, I know driving all the way down there, like there's so many fast cars down there, domestic and import. But first day I was thinking, okay, well, let's see how Jamie does. Cause I don't know how fast what was there, 34 cars in our class down there or something?
Yeah.
And,
there was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot. And then I have to say, I was, probably as bummed as you that you split your block in half because it would have been,
but a little redemption story on it. So 2 weeks ago, we actually had another overboost issue at the same track, and it made 80 pounds. And it didn't split a block. It stayed in one piece. Fire slotted the head a little bit, but didn't break a block.
Damn.
That is crazy.
Pounds. I start sweating if I push in like 21.8 pounds. I'm like, woo, it's getting a little spicy here.
So up here at elevation, we can run, 65 pounds is about the most we can get out of these turbos up here in our air. Yeah. So that 820 down there was actually 61 pounds of boost. So even though we were down there, we're still trying to mimic the air of being here, what we can push and how fast we could get it going.
Yeah, that is amazing. And congratulations on your 820, by the way. That was phenomenal. Cool. I was watching, cheering for you. I thought that was
thank you, man.
So cool.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
That is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Like, here we are, like me, I'm 521 cubic inches, making 1,500 horsepower at like, 15 pounds of boost or something. And how much horsepower are you making out of 4-cylinders?
We make anywhere from 11 to 1,400 on these.
Somewhere in there.
Oh my God. And
we don't really dyno them up that high, but off the fuel flow and everything, they're 11 to 1,400.
And at 40 pounds on our dyno, it made 1150. So
Now,
You know.
is that a 2 liter? Like, how big is this motor we're talking about?
It's a 1.8.
Yeah.
Because you're Rich, what are you like? I'm 7 liters at 427. You've got to be 8 or 9.
I think I'm like 8.3 or something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Woo!
Yeah. Think of what these guys could do with our motors.
Oh my god.
Right.
Well, we'd be on.
Just think what you do at our weight.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm
we'd-
4,000 and I think I was 4,065 at Oklahoma, but
It's so
Um,
impressive.
yeah, it's just cool that, I think we would have been pretty close to each other actually at Sick Week, which is so crazy to have such different combinations and then still run, in the high eights. I don't know, maybe you would have been
Yeah.
running 820 by the end of the week, but
yeah.
What's really fun about mixing the, front wheel drive and rear wheel drive cars in the racing is seeing the difference down the track. Like that's something you see a lot of it like World Cup. And I finally got to experience it there. I raced a Mustang that went 840 or 830.
835.
He went 835 to my 836. And as a front wheel drive guy, it's scary because you launch and they short track way better than us.
Yeah, so he's halfway
So
down
they're halfway down the track and we're barely clicking second gear. But then you've got 15 mile an hour on them. And so you're trying to clip them in the last 20 feet.
Wow.
And that's a weird feeling.
yeah. And I learned a lot when you were describing, what it feels like when you pull your parachute and when you pull your parachute. I was watching that video and I thought, okay, that makes sense. And interesting story. The parachute on the back of my car was from a guy who had it on a Chevette, and it's meant for my car. It's not meant for his. And Dario went through the traps at knowing Dario, probably 170 miles an hour, pulled the chute and it lifted the back of the car off. And it's a rear wheel drive car. And he was like, so I can imagine that's almost a sensation you feel every time until you figure out where to pull it, right?
Yeah, and that's honestly the biggest problem with front wheel drive racing right now is the parachutes and how to stop the cars. 99% of the accidents are happening on the shutdown with these cars. So it's a big thing.
I didn't watch the video, so I mean, I don't know what you guys are talking about. So tell me about the difference between pulling the chutes on the front wheel drive versus our cars.
So I started leaving his full in cars on in the videos, and you can see when he pulls the chute, the car sounds like an airplane landing. It's just, as it picks the back up off the ground and then just starts.
Oh, wow.
So with our weight bias, we're like 80% front weight. So you can't drive into the chute. It just picks it up. So when you go through the traps, you push the clutch. When you push the clutch, it actually picks the back tires up off the ground. So then you just brake it a couple times, get it settled, get all 4 tires back on the ground, get about 10, 15 mile an hour off of it, and then you can throw the chute, and it'll pick it back up a little bit, and most of the time, hopefully, puts it back down.
And we're talking about what's your trap speed?
182 is its best.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, at World Cup, he had a huge scare where it actually went half the shutdown in the air. He nosewheeled that far.
I thought I was just going to drive into the sand because there was, you can't touch the brakes or anything. It's front wheel drive and you're steering on the front, and that's the only thing on the ground. So
yeah. Jeez. That's a whole different.
So we've been talking active aero and different things. Is you go down the track having the wing kind of pick up, or when you pull the chute, the wing comes up as well.
Yeah,
so different things to try to put some weight on the back of the car to try to prevent this stuff. And because eventually these cars are going to go 200 miles an hour. I mean, once we're 80 pounds plus,
there's a race happening right now in Orlando that there's like a $5,000 bounty on the first sport front wheel drive to go 200. And everybody's been right there. So it's going to happen soon.
Maybe you guys should look into the truck pulling industry where, as they pull further and further, the weight slides towards the back of the car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You like hit the button.
Right.
Yeah. There's some people that have been working on the active aero, Brent and Steve, one of our other guys, they talked about it on one of our old live streams. And there was another racer, they took it serious and they went ahead and did it on her car. And it's probably the most stable car. They have actuators on the wing. And it's probably the most stable car stopping.
Like pneumatic actuators.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they do it by degree on the speed and where they're out on the track on how much it lifts.
Oh wow. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such different challenges, hey? Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about like your launching technique and stuff. And how much air pressure do you typically run in your slicks in those cars? Like 2?
7 to 7.5,
Yeah.
sometimes lower.
And then what RPM do you launch at?
Depending on the turbo. So with the big turbo on, we're around 7,000. The little turbo, we were like 5,800 actually,
And when
because
you
it
say
made too much power too quick.
when you say big turbo, what are we talking?
7485.
Okay.
And the small turbo that we had to run at World Cup was a 6469.
Wow. Wow. But it's only a 1.8 liter, so those both move a ton of air for that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
And
we
then-
went 8.3 on the small turbo and 8.2 on the big one, so they're pretty close
nice.
so far.
Yep. Go ahead, Rich.
Go ahead. Now you go ahead, Bill.
what is the biggest challenge launching these things? I mean, I'm obviously this is a stick shift podcast, but I'm guessing it's just modulating the clutch or dumping it or something or managing wheel speed. Like, what is it?
It's a lot of, so we just started using traction control on this car. We've done everything from timing pulls to RPM limiters, all sorts of different stuff. Now we're starting to use an active traction control off the slip percentage. But it's, with it being front wheel drive, you can't just dead hook it. You have to let it move and then get control of it. You need to keep a certain wheel slip percentage or it just drags the motor down.
Yeah, these little motors like to stay lit. If you drag it down, you just cost the pass.
Yeah. Huh,
And-
interesting.
And so what kind of clutches are you using? Are you using slipper clutches or what kind of clutches are you using?
We're working towards that. Right now we just have triple discs in it.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
normal diaphragm, triple discs.
7 1/4.
Centered iron plates.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
The twin disc is what most of like the street applications use. Once you get upwards, a little over 1,100 horsepower, you need the triple disc. And then it also depends on if you're strain shifting it or clutch shifting it. The clutch shift cars, they're hard on the triple disc. The strain shift cars are hard on the twin disc.
Yeah.
And the slipper clutch is where we want to go. We want to start working on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in the same place as you guys with my heavy car, where I had to run a slick. And now finally, now that I've got the slipper clutch working for me and I went to a radial, it was like, yeah, Jonathan Atkins said it best. If somebody sponsored me slicks, I think I would probably end up sticking with radials just because they're so much stabler on top end. But I could never do it with a diaphragm heavy, twin or triple disc or something because I have the same experience as you.
We're gonna see, Rich, because I got radials and I have a little bit different way of modulating the clutch, so we'll see what happens. But yeah,
And
it's interesting.
So, Jamie, were you clutchless shifting at World
Yeah.
Cup? Yeah.
Yep.
During
Yeah, we haven't used the clutch to shift in a little over a year, probably.
Yeah.
And
Maybe 2.
Yeah, almost 2 years. It's just we use a strain gauge, so it's got a load sensor in the shift handle.
Yep.
So we have really good settings in that we worked really hard on, and if you look at in-car footage of it, it's the easiest car to shift. There's no lockout or anything, but you're so calm and slow with the shifts that it just literally glides right in.
And it's something Jamie and I worked on a lot. I would watch his in cars, and we actually slowed him down, and the car got faster.
Yeah, I was being too mechanically rough with it. Going from synchro transmissions where I was forcing it to this where I was braking them, strain shifting them until he sat me down with the videos and was like, you don't have to do that anymore. So now just slowed it down, and it made it a lot simpler to drive too. My other car that we do like race week and stuff with, that car goes low 10s and it's, you're kind of all over it, with the shifting and the clutch and synchros. Whereas this going 8s, it's so much more mellow actually driving it.
yeah.
Wow. Now, who builds the dog box for you? Like, who builds the innards for those?
So this is a PPG gear set.
Okay. And can you pick different ratios, or is it just what you get?
Yep. Yeah, there's different ratios. There's a 4.0, 4.2, There's different gear ratios. Kind of in the front wheel drive stuff, we all run about the same.
Okay.
That's kind of why we went with the PPG. We've had the same transmission in the car for 2 years.
Wow.
We tore it apart in July and looked at it. There was a little bit of wear on the pinion, on the teeth, but the dogs and everything looked fine. We just took it out after our last race at Bradenton with Cletus and them, and there's a lot more wear on the ring and the pinion, so we're gonna have to replace those. But 2 years, and that's all we have to replace. No dogs, no sliders, anything like that. Everything else looks great. So,
And this is
and it's
just
all in
a-
the strain
yeah.
settings on that.
And this is just a race car. This doesn't see street time, or does it?
So this is the same transmission we tried doing sick week with. So we literally the same gears and everything. So
Yeah.
we did a bunch of street driving on it. You know, we tried it. We didn't make it through sick week, but we did
Yeah.
do a lot of the driving. We did a lot of prep driving. But now this car doesn't get driven as much on the street just because, you know, there's one seat in it. There's a 3-gallon fuel cell. You know, it just doesn't get driven as much now.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the fuel that you're running?
We're a C85 and M1 mix.
Yeah,
We're mixing 50-50.
50-50.
We were on straight M1, but we ran out of fuel system. So we mixed it with C85 to get some of that system back.
Yeah. The
And
3-gallon
it
cell.
seems to love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, the methanol is going to make a lot more exhaust volume to help drive that turbo too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's nice. And these are 16.
Yeah. And we,
I'm not a
and-
Honda person, but it's a 16 valve head, which flows a ton, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then keep in mind how much fuel it uses. So we've got a mechanical pump on it. We've got 2 sets of 220-pound injectors in it. And on straight methanol, we were 100% duty cycle on all 8 injectors.
Oh my
The
God.
base is at 90.
And the base pressure is at 90.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it 1-to-1's on the boost. So, you know, it uses a lot of fuel. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
we're
fuel
seeing
consumption.
150 psi fuel pressure up top.
And mechanically driven
amazing.
pump, belt driven pump.
It's actually right on the cam. It's
Oh,
right off
okay.
the cam bolt.
Nice. Wow. That's impressive,
cool.
guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My
Yeah.
We're
head
having
is-
fun.
So you're saying you're on the 2-step at 7,000 RPM, and I was just watching your video taking apart your car, Jamie, and the balancer, and it almost looked like it had welded to the crankshaft. Does this sound familiar, Bill?
yes.
So do you
Yeah.
think?
I'm not the only
Yeah.
one, thank goodness.
Yeah, have you seen that before?
I haven't on these, but I don't think we've left one on that long, being that hard on it. So that damper hasn't been off in over a year, and it still drives the alternator. Like, this is probably one of the faster ones of these cars that still had an alternator on it.
Yep.
Most of the guys run 16-volt systems. We're going to do that now just because of this. You know, the extra load of the belt on it's kind of what we were thinking was part of it. So,
Yeah, I tell you, I'm part of our group with Ben Strader, and even the Pro Mod guys with their balancers. I can't remember how often he was saying he was changing the hub because it was micro welding itself to the crankshaft. So they would take them off, I think, every 7 passes, put a new hub on, clean the material off the crankshaft that had transferred from the balancer. But you know, Bill pretty much had to take a torch to get his balancer off his crankshaft. I think it's the
yeah.
2-step and the torture we're putting it through. But
Well, and mine was a little different because the threads in the crankshaft halfway down were damaged and I didn't know it. So when I went to torque it, it actually wasn't torqued. Like, it left about 30 thousandths of gap. And
Oof.
I did Midwest drags and both drag weeks and drove it home, pulled it in the garage, got up the next morning to pull the car out because I had to change oil in my other car. And it had, when I went to crank it, it sheared the key, which then crashed a bunch of valves and just caused all kinds of problems.
On the
And I
timer.
literally, I literally had to take a grinder, my plasma cutter, and on a small block Ford, you know, it has that front cover. I had to break the front cover to get that off. And I'm like using a plasma cutter on this Cali's Magnum crank. I'm like, oh God, this is not good. And yeah, it was, and that's when I found out, and we fixed everything, and now it's properly torqued. But yeah, like Rich was talking about, just the the harmonics and the micro welding, it's amazing what
Yeah.
can happen in there. It's crazy.
That's honestly our biggest thing we've been going through with this car is a maintenance schedule. You know, seeing how far stuff can go. You know, we're keeping tallies on everything. How long it's been in, how often do we change it? You know, we're down to we put rod bearings in it between every event. Not every pass, but every event. It's real easy, you know, it's 4-cylinder, they're all just right there. And jack the car up and do it on the ground. But rod bearings we do every event, rod bolts we do every other torque sequence. You know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff
What
that we've just been working on how long to leave it in.
So when you change these rod bearings, I mean, is there a lot of wear on them, or do they look pretty good?
There's some edge wear and top
bad.
wear, but it's not bad. The edge wear, the bearings we've been using, Brent actually just noticed a couple times ago, but they sit off to the side just a little bit in the journal. And that's the side that they're wearing a little bit on.
Interesting. Yeah,
I mean,
the
crank, we didn't really trust this crank that much because the crank that's been in the car is the one from Sick Week out of the split block.
So that's the last time the damper was changed.
And
Like,
we never checked it. It was, you know, after I broke everything at Sick Week, I was broke and I had a bunch of broken parts and the car sat for like 2 months. We're like, well, we got to get racing again. So we just went through all the broken parts bins and put a motor back together.
wow.
I was scared to take stuff to the machine shop. I'm like, well, let's just put it together and see if it works. And it lived all year.
lived all year.
That's hot rodding though, right? I saw
That's
you,
hot rodding.
Brent. I saw you climbing through your storage shed or wherever, and you're check that one out. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's what you put in the Freedom Civic there. And I was like, that's so cool. I mean, it speaks to why us hot rodders don't throw shit away because you just don't know. It's like, oh, that'll work in there. We got 3 good rods. We only need 1 more.
Yeah.
It's just
I kick myself now because I threw so much away in the past, and now I'm like, some of the stuff I need again, and I'm like, dang it. Everybody called me a hoarder, so I got rid of some, and it's like, ugh. But I still got plenty.
Yeah.
Now every once in a while he's like, oh, we should sell some of this stuff. And I'm like, no, don't do that yet. Just hold on to it. We're gonna take your garage key away so you don't go throw that stuff out or sell it.
It's mind-boggling. And Rich and I have talked about this, but the cylinder pressure and the amount of power per cylinder you guys are pulling out of these little motors is just mind-blowing. I mean, it really is. Like if we were to scale it up to a V8 like what Rich and I run, they literally be making 3, 4, 5,000 horsepower. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Whew.
It's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. And so you mentioned Sick Week. So I was watching your videos, and you are both you bringing cars, and is Goofy bringing a car too?
I'm going with him. I'm gonna be a co-pilot this year.
Oh, that's cheaper. That's a good idea too.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. No, he's helped me with all this for so long, and he's got a car together. So I just want to go help him.
I'm excited.
His son Shane is doing it in his car, and then taking his brother. So figure all 4 of us go with 2 cars.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy cool.
I'm looking forward to you guys kicking my butt. I mean, I think Chad's going with his car, and he's, from talking to Chad on the last podcast, I think that car's got 760s in it or something. So I don't know how we're going to take him
so
now.
Fast.
Yeah,
we might have to ask if he wants some of our tuning advice or something.
Put more timing in.
I don't think Brent gets to race in a class with you guys this year, though. He has to race something else.
Oh, really?
He's not.
I got a sequential in that car.
He's got a sequential.
Oh,
I invent something.
Interesting. What are your plans for Sick Week, but what other events you guys planning to do next year?
So we've got our PSCA series that we run here.
Yep.
We have 3 classes in that. So we have the pro import class, a sport class, and then an index class. And then we go to a bunch of the Cletus and Cars stuff.
I've got a couple IFOs.
We do some IFOs, street car takeovers, that kind of stuff. And then ice cream cruise, we always go to that.
Nice. Yeah, Kyle's event's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much fun.
You ever tried no prep?
So that was one of the reasons the Freedom Civics together in all-wheel drive, because we actually want to go do more no prep stuff. The event you went to this weekend, Bill, was one we would have liked to go to if we hadn't hurt the motors. So
Yeah.
We want to do those.
That's where
So
the
the-
all-wheel drive stuff really shines.
Yeah. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
all-wheel drive, like, what do you guys use for the transfer case? Are those out of CRVs?
Yes.
CRVs and the old Wago vans from the early 90s.
Yeah, the back of it looks like a mailbox.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what most of this stuff in his car is from, is a Wago van.
Wow. And so, like, what mods do you have to make to that transfer case to handle that kind of power and abuse?
This one's stock, but like the real high power, the guys making like 1,500 plus horse have billet transfer cases with PPG stuff inside those as well, you know?
Wow.
So they have the aftermarket shafts and gears that are all billet
Sure,
for them
sure.
and stuff. The rear ends, they have, diffs and ringing pinions, all that stuff for those. The viscous coupler is the biggest thing with all-wheel drive stuff. And that's where there's some companies making some new stuff, because the stuff's really not that available. They were made for what, 3 years on the Wago vans. So they're running out of parts, and you're running out of finding those, and they're getting expensive.
Super high dollar to buy a used wagon viscous and rear end right now. It's crazy money.
So like what he's got in his is actually a Land Rover one. So there's a company in
really?
Florida that's been taking the Land Rover ones and rebuilding them and selling them for these.
Well, that's probably the only good parts left in a Land Rover, right? Unless they're out of warranty.
Yeah, 100%.
I've heard you don't want to own one out of warranty. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. That's the truth.
Wow. Wow. Huh.
And so
They're cool,
you
though. Super fun.
obviously, oops, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, so you obviously have to set the all-wheel drive car up quite a bit different than the front-wheel drive. Just the weight bias, or do you do the same?
So we went in this car, we did the same. Because the way we're looking at it is, if we do it just the same as the front wheel drive and the back just gives it a little push, that the car will just work really well. And obviously we don't have a lot of passes in the car yet because we broke it. But the passes we have, like, I mean, the very first pass was a 460 foot. So it's like already headed the right direction. So,
so the slipping of the viscous coupler, really, you're just using the rear as a helper to get it moving. So we still, he has the same weight plate that I have on the front of mine. He's hanging the same amount of weight. We still cut the car the same as a front wheel drive, do the weight bias the same. There's a couple percentage different just because he has a rear diff and a drive shaft. There's more stuff in the back of the car, but build it about the same, and hopefully the drive shaft just helps push it.
So far, it's worked really good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think we can go like mid 60 foots with it all dialed in and turned up.
So that was my question. So on a strictly front wheel drive setup, like, what's a good 60 foot for you guys?
High 1.3s, low 1.4s.
Okay.
That's really good. And that's where you have to be to be competitive now.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the all wheel drive stuff, you're in the 120s.
Yep. There's guys in the 1.1s.
Wow.
But yeah, you start adding the slipper clutch to all that stuff eventually, and these cars are going to 1.0 stuff,
Oh yeah, that's what I was just going to say, that yeah, you'll be in the 1.0s. They're just so light, and it's just so much with the sticks and launching the car. Like I watch you guys, or I go to a local event where nobody's got slipper clutches, and it's and then it takes off, right? And then you're controlling the power, but it's what you got to do until you can get something to help control it. Even like Bill's Bang Shift Billy, something to slip the hydraulics. But yeah.
So are you guys, because I'm not aware of a slipper clutch for those imports because everything is so packed in there. Are you guys developing one, or is there actually one available with counterweight and everything?
So there's some older stuff out there that was done by Ace, but we are working with people to try to develop something new for these.
Okay.
I think that will be the game changer for the class, because we, like you said, the class is in the 7.7s and high 7.6s, and we want to be right in there. And I think doing that, it's going to make everything, more reliable and consistent. So,
well, it's a heck of a lot less aggressive on parts, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And that's always our biggest goal, because we're not the richest guys out here doing this either. So it's we try and reuse a lot of parts, try not to spend a lot of money on it. There's the engine in these, like, we don't always have the best the best of the best from everybody, because you
Yeah.
use what you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So every little bit that we can save helps.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about it, though. I think that's what earns your respect, right? When you're digging through the shed,
Yeah.
and then you throw it together. And how fast has the Freedom Civic been?
Honestly, it hasn't been that fast yet. My best was 10.8, and I let off just before the 8th. But it showed pretty decent. It was like a 460 foot and 6.2 at the 8th, and I had already let out. So it should go a high 8, low 9.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
Yeah.
Brent, what sequential transmission is actually in your car? Is it a PPG
That's a
box
Quaife
or-
sequential.
Quaife, okay.
Yep. So they use it's the factory Honda front part of the case,
Bell
and
housing.
the bell housing, and then Quaife sends the back half of the trans and then all the gears. So it goes right into that factory bell housing, and then you just bolt it on in. So it's a pretty trick little deal.
It's got the 2 stacks, and then it's got a shifter barrel down the middle of it that it ratchets through.
Nice.
Oh,
And it's
cool.
a 4-speed?
5-speed.
5-speed.
5-speed. Okay. 6 if you count reverse.
Yeah. 6 if you count reverse. Don't hit 6 while going too fast.
Doesn't that R stand for race?
Yeah. Zing.
Or really
That's right.
broke.
Yeah, for sure.
Is 5th gear overdrive?
What's that?
Is 5th gear overdrive?
It really
It's right in line with the next gears. So like I wouldn't consider it overdrive. I think it would just pick up and help if we could have the power to get there.
Is it 1-to-1 5th gear? I think that's really what he's asking.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I don't remember the ratios in that one yet. We haven't had it long enough for me to remember the ratios.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
the MR2, he's almost gone to 5th, and he's going 188.
Yeah.
So he's just about ready to go to 5th in the MR2, which is the same transmission.
Boosted Boy Kyle in his MR2.
Kyle.
Yeah.
He's got the same transmission, just 2-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So he, on that last pass at Cletus and Cars, he did stick it in 5th just because the car was dancing a little bit, but he's not needing to use it yet.
And that's a K-swap, right? That one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was
And
just
that's
thinking about
basically the same drive line he's got, but all-wheel drive.
Right, and it's rear-wheel drive. Oh, no, all-wheel drive in the MR2. Interesting. Okay.
No,
Okay.
the MR2's rear-wheel drive. I'm saying Brent's Freedom Civic is basically the same drivetrain, just all-wheel drive instead of rear-wheel.
Oh, which potentially is advantageous, I would think. Yeah. That's awesome. So when you guys are setting up for the long tricks and stuff do you use to build boost on the line? Because it's got to be critical. You've got such a little motor with such a big turbo in comparison. What are you doing? I mean, you're ripping timing out of it. What else?
Ripping timing.
That's pretty much it. We
And a
get the
lot of
RPM, we dump the timing, and then he tries to feed it back in as fast as possible to get the wheel speed up, and then he tugs it all back down and controls it and tries to go with his
So just for a reference, on 2-step, we're making 38 pounds.
Oh my god.
Holy crap.
yeah.
38 pounds. It's got like 0 degrees of timing, if not a little negative sometimes. And that's how we have to make the boost. Throw a bunch of fuel in it to light it in the pipe.
So when you
That's
went
awesome.
820, how far did it pull it down when you dropped the clutch? What kind of RPM? You went from like
we try
70
not to
What?
No, we try not to drop the RPM. You try and bring it up and let it hang a little bit. Now, since we started using the traction control, it's kind of come up about 1,000 RPM, and then we've actually been dragging it down to like 6,500 and then throwing it back in.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
And if we could shift that up to 7 again, we'd probably pick up the time we're actually chasing. So it's part of the game.
So you launch at 7. Where do you shift?
11.
11,000. Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a
And
whole
we're trying to
different
figure out
world.
ways to stretch that too. So.
Yeah, we're trying to stretch that because we've kind of been shifting it right at like 10.9, and we want to actually start shifting it at like 11.3, 11.4.
just so it comes back down into a better spot in our RPM band. This is all with the big turbo, because the small turbo he can do anything he wants and it just stays lit. So
yeah.
so the big turbo, we're trying to stretch things out.
Whole different world, isn't it, Rich?
Oh, it is, yeah. And has anybody
Different
done any
but the
work?
same.
Yeah. Has anybody done any work on a spintron for you? Or what's your limit? What's your limiter there for RPM?
Valves and springs.
Valves and springs,
Yeah. Just keeping that stuff from floating.
Yeah.
And
That's so like on sick week last year, that's how I broke the second engine. We split that one in half. I went and took a day and put another motor in it. And I went and tried hero passing it. I didn't turn it down at all when we went to Gainesville. And it unloaded the tires and it spun up to 12,000 and floated valves and broke a bunch of stuff.
so like
So
valve train parts, like who makes springs for these? Like, I mean, I'm familiar with Pack and stuff like that, but Ferrea, okay.
Ferrea, Super Tech. There's quite a few companies. Skunk 2.
All right. And then valves, you running stainless, titanium, Inconel. What are you running for valves?
Stainless.
Intake and exhaust?
What are the exhaust ones?
I think you're all stainless.
I think I'm all stainless on this one now.
Okay.
We tried a bunch of different stuff, but this one's all been stainless the past couple of years.
Okay. Nice.
It's still pretty budget minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just broke mechanics. So it's kind of whatever we have our hands on and we can keep in the car.
Nice. I think they have stainless valves in a Briggs and Stratton mower.
Yeah. The stock are stainless too, so.
Yep.
Nice.
That's so impressive. Yeah.
It is so impressive what you guys are doing. Like, it's just awesome.
Thank you.
So we have a couple audience questions here, and this is one like I'd like to know too. What are you doing to keep the heads clamped down with so much boost? I mean, they don't make 6-bolt blocks for these, like, because they're just basically 4 bolts kind of around each cylinder, right?
Yeah. There's 10 head studs on each of them.
All right.
Yeah, we're using 11 millimeter L19s right now. We are talking about doing another block with 12 millimeter L19. But right now we've just gone with the standard 11 millimeter 10 bolts. And that's it. We've been talking about doing block savers and stuff too, where we can try to keep blocks together and get clamp loads down. So
right now, the biggest thing we're changing on the car with the new engine, we dry decked it all. So we welded the head, and we're not going to run water in the block at all. Just pump it through the head.
Yeah.
But so all year, the car probably had 55 to 59 passes is what we counted this year. We had to change the head gasket once, and we ran one whole event with no water in it. And then that last event 2 weeks ago, we finally, when it overboosted, it stretched the studs and fire slotted the head a little bit.
And are they O-ringed?
I mean, those head studs were the ones out of the split block, budget minded, using what I had laying around.
Sure.
They'd already been stretched, and then they had another 50 some passes on them.
it is stainless O-ring with an MLS gasket is what we ran all year.
That seems to work. Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
And of course, running the methanol helps. It doesn't build a ton of heat, so you're okay going dry. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Oil. What kind of oil you guys running? What weight?
So we've been running Brad Penn, and we were running 2050. We saw a little bit of oil pressure bouncing in 4th gear. So we switched to the SAE 50 in mine, and the oil pressure's been staying solid in it.
Yeah, way better.
You broke up for a second. Say that again. What was the oil you
So
switched to?
we've been running Brad Penn SAE 50, and it solved our little bit of oil pressure fluctuation in 4th. And we actually run it about 1.5 quarts over, because it's the drain back from the head that just doesn't let it return. So you just kind of got to flood it.
Yeah. So straight 50 weight. Interesting. And then how often do you change it with that methanol?
So we're putting a quart in it every pass, because since we're flooding it, it's pushing about a quart into the catch can every pass.
Oh.
And then we change it every event, which is 5 to 10 passes.
Nice.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Do you guys run G meters at all?
Yep. Oh yeah.
What kind of G's is it pulling?
Give me 1 second and I'll tell you.
Pulling up our data right now.
Yeah, data log right here.
Nice.
And it's got to look so different than the car. Like when you ran 830s beside the Mustang that ran 830s, and his
169.
G meters peaking early.
169.
That's on the launch.
Yeah.
That's just barely into first gear once it actually starts moving.
Nice. Nice.
The all-wheel drive we saw 2.2.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's
It's
impressive.
very impressive.
But-
Yeah.
But it's
So-
like if we can get a slipper clutch in there, we may just pick some of that up. You know, it may just be smooth instead of, because right now the car wheel hops like crazy. We didn't get a handle on that until the last two passes in Bradenton, but all of World Cup and then the first couple passes in Bradenton we're messing with a lot of wheel hop.
The biggest thing is we took the car to events all year. So we get it to run a time and then we want to start trying stuff, but then we're, at eliminations and we don't want to screw with it.
Yeah.
So we might actually just start going to a couple of test days and actually working on some stuff like that.
Yeah, we say that every year too, and we end up at sick week untested. Yeah.
So if you're going to go to test days, there is a solution that you can try without opening up the bell housing. I don't know if you thought about that.
What's that?
Well, the clutch controller, and you may actually have one in your shop.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put it in the Freedom Civic and then get you out with us and dialing that thing in. So with the all-wheel drive, I think I could really make the car fly out of the hole with that thing. So
Yeah. Well, I look forward to helping you guys out with that. For sure.
Yeah.
So
the all-wheel drive car, we think that's going to be the best thing for that. Like that will be the biggest thing that helps that car.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Rich, you got any more questions? Like my
I wanted
mind
to
is
talk-
spinning.
Let's talk about your carnage, Brent. I want to tell you a story about race week, and actually, I think you guys were at race week this year when I had a problem. I had aluminum in my filter, and I didn't know what was causing it. But I had actually lost a piston pin clip, and so because I have a clear view filter, I saw some aluminum in there, and I couldn't figure out where the heck it was coming from. But what happened is
actually a long spiral. It was weird.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was really weird aluminum. It was like, I don't know where that's coming from, and we ripped pretty much the whole top of the engine apart looking for something. It was a chain hitting the timing cover, anything that was aluminum, and we bailed out, left the car there, thankfully. And on the last day when we came back, pulled the oil pan off, and there was a piston clip sitting in my oil pan, and so the pin had shifted all the way out and was touching the edge of the cylinder. And the aluminum was from the pin catching one side of the boss and wiggling it away. And if I would have made one more pass, I'm sure I would have broke the pin out of the piston. And then I'm sure I would have had the same carnage as you, rod sticking out the side of the block. But when I saw your video and saw the clip sitting in the pan, I'm thinking, I wonder if that's what caused the failure or something else. But it's so hard to know with that carnage, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot of carnage. That's what we've been debating too. What went first?
So my theory, that motor was a quick fix. Brent has stuff laying around, we can fix it real quick. The piston to wall was kind of wide on that cylinder, and the skirt on those pistons isn't solid all the way around.
Super cut.
So it's super cut, and it's not a big percentage actually touching the walls on each end of it. So I think with the big piston to wall clearance, I think it caught and ripped the pin out of the piston first.
Yeah.
But that's just my theory.
It's kind of what I was thinking
definitely did
too.
some damage.
Yeah. The rod looks crazy. It looks like it tried to run into something.
Yeah. That's what my son Steven was like, Dad, it ripped the pin out first because look how stretched the rod is. And so it was interesting.
Man.
Well, you had a pan underneath it and you didn't crash. So that's all that really matters. You're safe. So
yeah.
And he kept making the whole pass. He stayed in it the whole way.
Look, I haven't driven for a hot minute, so when I get an opportunity, I don't.
It honestly is, I got to say, Brent, when I watch your videos and I watch your respect for your family and how positive you are. It's very cool to see you back in the driver's seat and getting to enjoy some of the hard work that you put in. So it's very cool that you're going to Sick Week and you get a drive. I'm looking forward to that, because that big smile I see you there. I mean, I think I lent you my jack once when you and Garrett had the whole back of Leroy off of it, and I think, oh, you guys are going to be in for a night.
Yeah.
That was a night for sure. We thought it was going to be this quick change, and we were so wrong. And it was actually not the play we needed to make whatsoever. We should have made one more pass, got a decent time, and then tore into it. But
we
could do it fast and make another pass, and that was not
that the one at
case.
Bandamere? Was that at Bandamere?
That was in Ennis, Texas.
Yeah.
That was
okay.
Race 2.0, and we had the whole back of Leroy torn apart. And we really thought we could do it fast, but we were way wrong. Zach had just put the car together, and he Loctited everything. And to get wrenches in places in that car is not easy.
Do you hear that, Rich?
Yeah, yeah. I have a buddy named Ted.
Lots of it too.
And he Loctites everything together. And but yeah, so I was chuckling when Garrett told us the same story. He was like, "What the hell? You guys are stripping bolts," and somebody liked to watch it.
Yeah, I think Garrett actually disappeared for a while and just left me to go because the frustration. It was
so Brent, you always seem so positive. So this will be like a married couple question. So Brent is so positive. So Jamie, tell us what makes Brent angry. Like, what gets him unhinged?
It takes a lot. So I've been working with him for 8 years now?
Yeah.
8 years. In 8 years, I've probably seen him royally pissed off twice.
One was a girlfriend, one was my son.
Yeah.
I can count them both.
Yep. And you gotta really push those buttons. I'm the loose cannon. I'm the one that I set off way easy. And he's the one having it. Jamie, calm down. It's not the end of the world. Calm down. But if he gets set off, he's about as bad as me too.
And I'll be honest, most of the time it's just disrespect.
Yeah.
I feel like I worked way too hard to take a little disrespect. So I kind of pipe up when that happens.
Fair enough.
He is the first person to stand up for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, tell us your favorite moment on race week with Garrett. I know I was there for a couple of nasty ones, like where we went through we were hydroplaning.
Oh,
and that was nasty.
So during the same hydroplaning moment, that's where I was going to go with this, and that car was on two wheels, all that stuff. But just before that, I was duct taping the roof while we're driving, and I totally lost the tape. Just it flew out the window. So it was a lot of fun. Those first couple of race weeks in Leroy were just, doing it in that car with it open is probably one of the best experiences ever. And I'm kind of bummed that it's, Leroy's race week years are over, but who knows? He may get a wild hair because race week in that car it's just different. Being in the open cockpit, every drive seems to go way faster. Like when we're in Mullet, it seems like every drive takes forever. You're just waiting to get there. And in Leroy, everything's fast and it's just neat.
Just pack your rain suit.
Yeah. Being in the rain suits, all that stuff was so much fun.
That's awesome.
The canoe, we went canoeing,
Yeah. Just a memory.
We still don't have that canoe here, so
yeah. We just moved the canoe yesterday.
Yeah.
So Brett,
cool.
will you be co-pilot in the new McFlurry build, the Mustang?
I think so. Usually I don't know until it's coming up, honestly.
He'll usually call the week before. Hey, you going with me?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I think I'm good at like keeping the crowd down and, giving him his free time and, just a good hand on the car. So we have a good time. It's like the only time, Garrett's one of my great friends and now he's so busy all the time. It's hard to just check in, so
yeah,
it's kind of nice. I think he checks out when we're doing it too. So
yeah, you're busy when when you pack your race week trailer is to put those crowd management ropes in there.
Yeah.
I don't seem to
remember
have
the
that
day
problem.
that happened.
What's
I
that?
remember the day that it became that. We were in Pueblo 2 years ago, and Garrett was under the car under Ruby looking at something, and James was under there with him, and we were all right there. And then all of a sudden, there was like 6 fans popped under the car, and that was the second cones got put in the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. And the ropes and everything. It's crazy. It's so exciting to see. But I mean, you're approaching that too. I mean, you've got almost 1 million followers on YouTube. Is that correct?
We're 365,000. That's where we're at. The Boosted Boys are like over 1 million, and you know, we helped get that channel going first. So
yeah, that's awesome.
you know,
It's impressive.
it's cool.
Yeah,
It's cool seeing all those guys grow, because I remember when Garrett was where we were. You know, I've gotten to see it all, and it's been really neat. So it's cool.
Yeah. You know, what I really appreciate about all that stuff is when we all get on the road and you guys can be normal people at gas stations. And I remember while you were taping the cardboard on the roof right before that storm and stuff. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I got buddies in Canada that would do anything to be at a gas station with you guys. So it's pretty cool. And, you know, you guys are just doing your thing. But, you know, when you get to the racetrack, it's like, yeah, probably don't want to go visit with those guys right now because there's this crowd around, and and I mean the fans love you guys and want to spend time with you and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I can only imagine that when you and Garrett are cruising down the road, it's just the two of you. You're both busy with your businesses, and it's just like, you know, this is why we do all that stuff, so we can cruise down the road and enjoy and BS on the radio with each other and laugh and
100%.
Check out a little bit.
Yeah,
100%.
totally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rich, do we want to jump into the TKO round?
Yeah, do you want to go there, or do you want to talk EPA at all first?
Oh yeah, no, I do. I want to hear about the RPM Act. Sorry, little
You're good.
early there.
Well, I mean, we couldn't be doing any of this without people like yourself, Brent.
Yeah.
Highlighting the importance. And I know that there's one seminar at PRI coming up. It's just about this as well. So it's an important topic. I think we need to chat about it a little bit. It's kind of a depressing topic, but it's what we have to deal with. So how are you making out?
Well, so we're still in the thick of it, dealing with it. My view of what they're doing right now is just they're burying us literally in attorney fees. You know what I mean? And if that's how they're gonna, that's kind of what my situation with that is. We've been fighting it, and I've obviously, you guys know, I've screamed from the mountaintops what's going on, and try to bring as much awareness as I can to it, while still trying to run the business and make things go. It's definitely affected our business some, because we're not nearly bringing in the tuning side of things that we used to. You guys followed the channel. We were doing 5 cars a day, and dyno was never stopped. We were going and going, and we really have to watch what we bring in. If it's got a license plate, I literally can't touch it right now. I can't do anything with that. So it's really been a tough deal. And then trying to bring that awareness to other shops too. I was just, when we were at World Cup, I had a shop owner come up to me that just closed his shop down because, he got the letter, talked to his attorney. His attorney said, if I was you, I'd just close the doors. And so that's what he did. So, it's affecting the entire industry. And it really, the thing that bums me out is the guys with the horsepower and the weight aren't jumping in and helping and bringing more awareness themselves, because my view is the EPA is picking on all the little shops because we don't have the finances to really battle them.
We don't have legal teams and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I was fortunate enough to have YouTube and had a lot of fan support and really just, I hang it out there because I still believe we didn't do anything wrong and that we're in the right. So I keep pushing, and and I don't ever want to sign that piece of paper because the piece of paper I pay their fine. I sign this piece of paper. It says I can never modify a vehicle again. That's what it says. So if I was to sign it, I'm done anyway. So you know what I mean? There's no reason not to just keep pushing.
So Brent, what's it going to take for the big guys to jump on board with you and back this thing and just educate and fight?
You know, I feel like they're scared of it. You know, if they pop their head up, that EPA is going to whack-a-mole them. You know, and so EPA just did get eBay Motors, which is, I mean, they're the biggest supplier for everybody. With eBay Motors not being able to sell performance parts coming up, I mean that's going to be a huge hit for our industry. How many people buy parts off eBay? I mean that's, so it's like they just cowered back too. They're just gonna pretty much make the seller stop selling that stuff.
And what sucks is like eBay's a big one that puts back into our community.
100%.
They really do. They help sponsor events, they help sponsor races, they help with YouTube channels and stuff like that. They are a company that puts back into our community.
Yeah, they gave us the budget to build the Freedom Civic and put it back together, so it's, it really does. And that's the other thing I want to stress to these big companies is once they get all those little guys and then we're done, who's going to be their tech support? Because right now that's what we do. We do the tech support for the company, so their lines aren't busy all day. We jump in and we solve people's stuff and make it work without having to check with them or.
And then a little deeper insight into what our fine was for, and this is kind of what we're dealing with. So Honda S300. So basically that is the tuning systems that we use in an OBD1 Honda. So it's a board that goes into a stock ECU. Now this ECU doesn't have any emissions controls. It doesn't have any emissions readiness or anything like that. They're a single wire O2 car from factory. And this fine is for tampering with, the ECU tampers with emissions control devices. But there isn't even any emissions readiness or anything in that ECU.
And another thing going along with that is we sold 30 of them not installed. No tunes in them, no nothing. We literally, over the internet, people bought them off our website. They never hit the building. They went right to our clients, and that's hit, and that's how it hit. And I'll be honest, the only thing that really saved us was we had just closed our old LLC down, and the YouTube stuff was growing, so we moved it all into the YouTube LLC. So we'd only been operating for a couple months under that LLC, which is the LLC they hit. So it's
crazy.
A super crazy situation. And ever since then, we've been like, we scrambled. We started working with the PSCA a lot because those are our clients anyway. So working with those young guys, getting them off the street, making their cars, what Jamie's is or what the Freedom Civic is, and building those into that class has been our clients. That's what's been keeping us afloat. So, I'm still trying to manage how to make this all work. I don't know how long you go selling T-shirts. So it's like,
yeah,
we're trying to find an avenue.
The biggest thing was when we got the initial fine, when they sent us the paper, it was 4 days before we left for race week.
Yeah.
The car that I take on race week, that Integra, that's what that ECU is. That's what's in that car. So then we get this fine and we leave to go to race week, and it kind of had my morale really down. Like, what do we do with this? How do we film this? How do we do this? If they're saying this is wrong and we're in trouble, how do we do this the right way? How do we fight with this to be okay? That's the hard part, because we really like the drag and drives and everything, but how do we not get in trouble with it with that aspect?
So is it accurate to say there's a total lack of education on the EPA side? Like they don't have a full understanding of a lot of this, it sounds like.
So here's the thing with them though. They believe they're in triage. They believe we've already screwed the planet up. It's done. The planet's over. They're just trying to save it. So their point of view is we've already screwed this up, and you know, it really what we're doing and saying doesn't necessarily even carry any weight with them. I don't, if you go to the PRI seminar, like I've gone to these seminars and they come on and they get on in there and they talk, and like the guys from CARB, California Air Research Board, will be there and they'll say their spiels and stuff. And there's parts and there's companies that develop parts and get CARB numbers, and that's all well and good in California. But then they bring the federal guy on. His name's Evan Bilzer. They bring him on, and he flat out says, "We don't certify any parts. We don't do any of that. We think anything you guys do to a motor vehicle, if it isn't from the factory, is totally wrong." They don't believe, like, basically, if you own your own vehicle. I mean, they're into the mindset where we're all messing with things that we're not supposed to, and that's their point of view, and they're pretty stuck with that. So, getting their education, I just don't see it happening. And then the other side is the tests they have done. They're not independent tests; they're EPA tests. So who knows what's real with that? And you know what I mean. So if you don't have all these big labs doing the same tests and debating, or even having climatologists out there debating, because the guys that do speak up and says, "Hey, you guys are totally wrong on this, on the global warming and what's going on." Sure, the planet's warming up, but it has been warming up for years. That's why we don't have glaciers all the way down into the middle of Minnesota anymore. You know,
you mean the actual science? Is that what you're talking about? The actual
science has been so put down because of an agenda that until we can get the regular public talking and see why what we do is important, because, you know, what we do is cool, but it's also where, you know, mechanics learn to be mechanics, where young guys learn to be mechanics, where young guys learn to be rocket scientists, where young guys learn, because we tinker on these little cars. It's the same technology we're dealing with is what's in a SpaceX rocket. It's not any different. You get your air fuel ratio, you punch some pressure in there and you let it go.
Yeah. So you guys are car guys, and you're smart enough to understand this. You guys' cars, what'd they come with? Did they come fuel injected?
No.
Yeah. I was just going to say the same thing, Jamie. I guarantee you.
Is your car cleaner now, even running an E85 or something like that? If you went and smog tested it, I bet you it runs cleaner with your fuel injection and all your modifications 100%. Than it did factory.
100%. And that's the other thing. These ECUs now are so smart. If NOx is a problem, if any of these things are a problem, all we need is a sensor, and we calibrate around the sensor, and the ECUs are smart enough to fix the tune. I mean, we're not in the Stone Age anymore. This stuff can be so solved so quickly. But
so on race weeks in my Integra, that has that ECU, an OBD1 ECU that we got fined for. In that car on E85, we averaged 32 to 35 miles to the gallon on E85.
Wow.
Doing the drives on race week.
Wow.
Amazing.
So how is that not more or just as efficient?
Yeah. To Bill's point, they're not even looking at the science, right? They're just blinders on.
Yeah. Well, there's so much science. I mean, there's the science of the heat cycles of the earth and global warming. You look at the science and that's it. I mean, we're not in an ice age anymore. And frankly, in ice age, we should be way more worried about planet cooling than planet warming, because there's way more production of plants and life and oxygen and everything when the planet's warming up. But also 100%. The science of all these old cars, like your Hondas, like Rich's GTO, my Fairlane, all those, they're significantly more efficient and cleaner than they ever were back then. I mean, like if you ever drive, and I know you know this, but if you ever drive and you get that smell in the car and you look up 2 cars ahead is an old car, a stock old car, and you can just smell it. And it's the hydrocarbons and the carbon dioxide, and they just have that smell, and it's kind of cool, but they're dirty as hell. And, you know, I've never been behind my car, but I've been behind Rich's, and it doesn't smell like that going down the road. Now, the guys running E85, you can smell that. It's like, you know, popcorn going down the road, but but they're still clean. I mean, it's frustrating.
And so you mentioned t-shirts, but before we get into the TKO round, tell us how we can support you, and tell us about your and our 2 listeners about your your YouTube page and stuff, so we can get more people on there buying shirts to help support you guys.
Yeah, we're not quite as popular as you guys. Yet.
So we have a website. We sell auto parts for like our kind of cars and stuff like that. We also sell all of our merchandise. It's pfispeed.com. There's also a link if anybody, has parts questions or anything like that that's not on our website. We do sell parts and stuff. There's a email thing on our website, how to contact us, to get parts, there's merchandise and all that kind of stuff on there.
And Travis will post a link to this in the bottom.
Yeah. I actually bought a pressure switch off your site the other day for trying to help me stage the car. So it's for brake line pressure
Gotcha.
transmitter. So
Very
into
cool.
my Mega Squirt. But yeah.
I love Mega Squirt.
Yeah.
But we still do some tuning as well on any aftermarket ECUs, race car oriented stuff, or, old cars that are, like I said, upgraded to Holly or Fuel Tech or any of or Mega Squirt, whatever that is, and still tune in on road race cars.
So if
still doing a lot of that stuff. So anybody needs help with that, we can sure jump in.
So if I show up to your shop, I just pull in a block before, take the license plates off, and then drive in, right?
Yeah.
So most of the stuff shows up on trailers.
Shows up on trailers and
the
leaves on
biggest
trailer.
thing.
Yep.
Okay.
No license plate. They show up on trailers, leave on trailers. It's a competition vehicle.
Got it. Understood. All right. You want to do the TKO round, Rich?
Yeah, let's do that. So TKO Tremec, that's a 5-speed transmission. So we got 5 questions, and you guys can both answer. So this should be entertaining. So I can go first. So what's the first car you guys owned and modified?
My very first car was a 1973 Chevy Blazer. I did all the body work on it. I lifted it 4 inches, put some 38s on it, and I did a lot of 4-wheeling and mudding back then.
Nice.
I got a job when I was 14 to buy it. Had it all done in 15, got my license at 16, lost my license at 16 and a half. That's how that went.
Nice.
I love that
Jamie?
thing. It was a lot of fun.
Jamie, how
So
about you?
my first car, I actually started off racing go-karts professionally when I was 8. So I started off with go-karts, modifying those, raced those for years. And then I still actually have my first car. It's a 79 F-150 custom. I got it from my grandpa. It's sitting in my backyard waiting for the day that I go ahead and fix it up and do something with it. But that I pretty much left alone, and then I got into Mustangs for a while.
Nice.
Yeah, he's owned like 100 Mustangs.
Yeah, I've owned a bunch of Mustangs, mostly 94, 95 with the pushrod 5.0 motor.
So Fox bodies.
No, the SN95s,
Oh,
94,
SN95.
95s.
Oh,
Okay.
That was my thing. I actually still have one sitting in the backyard that I might do something with eventually, but I ended up with an El Camino, so I think it might get love before that.
Nice. All right, so let's we're gonna pop it down into second gear. What is your opinion? What in your opinion has been the biggest technology change to move our sport forward?
Oh man, I think the advancements of the softwares and the ECUs. Honestly, I think that's been the biggest thing. Where you can pretty much plug something in, throw in some base numbers, and the car kind of starts working itself out. And next thing you know, you're just ripping.
Nice.
same
Jamie?
answer, Jamie.
Same answer, Jamie.
So there's a lot of cars. We actually have one here. You'll start seeing a bunch of stuff on. We've seen a bunch of old cars that were raced in like mid 2000s in our front wheel drive racing. These guys put a new ECU on them, a new turbo and new injectors, everything else the same, and those cars are flying. Just in the technology advancement in the fuel systems, turbos, and ECUs is really just it can push the same cars way farther.
Nice.
Very good. So now we're going to bang it up into third. We'll try to avoid first. So
Feeling the pull now.
what's that?
Woo!
Yeah,
I said I'm
money
feeling the pull now. We're in third.
Yeah.
What is your day job? I think you guys have somewhat answered that, but you are both the owner operators, or how's that work?
I own it, but Jamie takes care of this place like it's his own. I don't have a list of stuff for him to do. He pretty much manages our emails and a lot of tuning and a lot of client cars. Where I also any wiring and tuning, I'm involved with that, and I'm making the YouTube videos and drumming up projects for that. So together we've I, I we've really made something really cool. We can kind of finish each other's sentences a lot of the times, and we know what each other's thinking most of the time. It's been, working with him has been a game changer in my life. So, it's been cool.
Nice. All right, fourth gear. Here we go. It's really pulling now.
Yeah.
What
there goes the import. Just whipped right by us. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. 61 pounds of boost.
Let's go.
Yep. Let's go. What influences you to build your cars?
What the influence?
What influences you?
Honestly, I love the David versus Goliath of import drag racing. That's the biggest thing, because no matter what, at the end of the race, I can say, well, it's a Honda.
Right. 1.8 liters of Honda.
If I beat you, it's a Honda. If I lose, it's still a Honda. And half the cylinder. So it's like not losing. Right. But I love I just, they inspire me just to try to keep pushing. But the David and Goliath thing is big with me, I think.
I really like the racing that we do because I feel like it's the new stepping stone into drag racing. You're not getting as many kids from junior drags and stuff like that. There's still a bunch of kids doing that, but this is where you're bringing the everyday Joe out of high school into college, just getting their license, get them into drag racing. Because what are they buying? They're buying a little front wheel drive Honda and stuff like that. They're going and buying parts off eBay. We can get them into our series of racing and show them you can do that stuff on the track. You can do this, you can grow with it, you can learn stuff, and you can go the same path that all of us have ended up, racing at tracks, doing these events, introducing them to that.
The Civic is the new Camaro. You know what I mean? Like it is this generation's hot rod,
True.
It's like the stepping stone. You guys got to come out to our PSCA races sometime.
Cool.
PSCA, we didn't have an import series out here anymore. It had gone away. We approached PSCA, asked them help us put together a couple classes with your series. At first the domestic guys weren't really thrilled about all of our import guys being there. Import guys do kind of have a bad rap, of banging on two-step in the pits or oiling tracks down and stuff. But now a couple years later, we're all buddies. They're helping us, we're helping them. They pit with us now. Everybody, they see that we're drag racers now. I know when we first started it, race weekend. Yeah, when we started racing at race week in the stick shift class, I remember you were one of the first ones to be like, wait, what do we got here? What do we got going here? Because it is something different. Everybody doesn't understand it or know. But then you welcomed us and you said, yeah, go ahead, let them in. And we're not running away with it, but we're competitive. And I feel like we all get along and we all can teach each other something. From what you guys are doing to what we're doing, we can all work together and do some cool stuff.
That's true.
100%.
That's true. I mean, the mindset of what we're doing, it takes a village. So yeah,
it really does.
8-cylinder, it doesn't matter. It's
pick your pump and let's go.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know we're in the TKO round, but I really think that when the shit hits the fan, it doesn't matter where it is on the street, anywhere. I mean, people like us are the problem solvers. Like we're the ones that have dealt with all this trauma, if you will, at different and can just about solve any problem. Like, I mean, the fact that you guys put another motor in and then you didn't just like, well, we're going to limp this thing through sick week. I mean, you were still beating on it and having fun. Like, I mean, these are the problem solvers of the world, in my opinion. Like we're the ones that can, So that's pretty awesome. Another comment, we have a local event called the Tuner Bash. And it's funny that you mentioned that, it's what brings the kids out, because that event at our local track is like the biggest spectator event. Like there is more people show up to the Tuner Bash event than like it's called the Tuner Bash, but same thing. They invite all of us to come and play too. So it's awesome. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Okay,
Cool.
so I digressed. Go ahead.
My biggest suggestion with that to everybody, welcome those guys in, teach them. You know,
Totally.
if you see, you know, these young guys, you know, we've had people complain about all these guys are two-stepping in their pit or they're doing this or that, or go teach them. You know, they're young guys. They just don't know what we're supposed to do.
And some of these guys they've worked for years to get to that point to even be at the track and don't really know how all the track stuff even works yet. That was their dream to get there. And we've seen that a lot. So
just
any kind of help.
Yeah, guide them.
Yeah.
You know, try and welcome them in and, you know, show them what it's about.
Yeah, I always try to take all the time in the world for them when they come up and talk. And you know, because of the podcast and the drag and drive stuff I do, like I've had local people come. One kid was like, "Can I come over to your house and see your car?" And I'm like, "Sure, come on over." And
that's so cool.
He brought me a thing. It's a man card, is what it is, and I don't know where he got it, but it was funny because he watched the video where it was like, "Get this guy a man card." So he shows up with this steel man card that I still have in the visor on my car now, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, totally. We got to keep. Yeah,
I was gonna say, just going along with that. I know when you kind of took Goofy under your wing, and you know, it's still it changed him a lot. Like after Sick Week, you know, him talking to you a bunch, and the messaging between you guys, like it meant a lot to him. That was huge because you know he's used to Dad and all this stuff, but to get that respect from you, he took that seriously for sure.
You know, awesome. Sick Week, his son Shane, who we call Goofy, that event changed him. Sick Week changed him. Before that, he wasn't trying to be a competitive racer. He liked building the damn car. We called it the never-ending project. He had taken it to the track a couple times, but he didn't really have that competitive drive with racing it. He had the competitive drive with building the best car he could, and he'd get it like right there, and then he'd tear it apart because he wanted to do something better. Yeah. You know, that event, it really showed him, and a bunch of guys like you guys welcoming him and, you know, just talking to him. He really got that drive from that event. That event totally changed him.
It really did.
As a car builder, engine builder, driver, just his whole attitude about the sport really changed after that event.
That's awesome.
It really lit something in him and it changed him a lot. You know, and I feel like race weeks have done that for all of us. You know,
Mario.
Yeah, Mario. There's, you know, a whole lot of us. And the stick shift class really changed a lot for me when you guys let us into that. You know, my first year, I had a bunch of problems and I won Rookie of the Year and it was a struggle and I didn't like place in a class or anything. I didn't really have a home at race week. And then you guys let us into the stick class after that.
Game changer.
And it was a game changer. It gave us the little competitive drive with it, you know. Hey, I can win a trophy, or hey, I gotta, you know, add up everybody else's times, and you know, we gotta be conservative with the car. And it actually turned into, we go to a lot of other races and started racing stick shift racing elsewhere. You know, FL2K, I'm not racing the sport front wheel drive class, I'm racing in stick shift. You know, it's a real welcoming world now.
Yeah, we'll welcome everybody with open arms to make these kinds of bad decisions.
It's so cool. We appreciate you guys, is what we're saying. So
yeah, well, when you know, I had watched your son on your channel and stuff, so it was just as cool for me to meet him. Actually, and what he was doing, and to watch his perseverance through that event. I mean, it's so cool. Like, yeah, you did a fantastic job raising him. He's a very awesome kid. So
yes.
Thank you.
I would love to throw him in the passenger seat one day, and yeah, maybe he's lighter than me, so he could probably go faster than in my car. So okay,
you got fifth gear, Rich.
Yeah. Okay, well, this will be interesting for both you guys. What, in your opinion, is this secret to stick shift racing? So I guess import stick. What's the biggest secret you think that's out there?
The secret, I mean, you know, you never want to miss a gear, but for us, it's really been just managing the driver and getting those shift cuts just as tight as possible and right to save the transmission and parts. For us, that's been the game changer.
I feel like control.
Yeah.
Just keeping it all under control and saving parts. You know, I feel like a strain gauge is the biggest savior on a stick shift transmission. You know, we're talking to Cletus about it the other day. We are talking to Garrett about it. You know, he's not using a strain on his. He's using that RPM limiter.
Yep.
And if you look at the video, you can see the strain on the shifter itself.
The bend is
the bend on the shift handle and all that stuff.
Crazy.
And, you know, I'm sure you guys have seen some parts carnage, you know, on sliders and dogs and all that kind of stuff. And we've seen it all too. And, you know, we've seen with the strain and with the cuts, how much longer parts last and how much calmer it is as a driver in the car. So it's nicer on parts and it's nicer on you and the car. That's
interesting. Yeah, because Rich and I
feel
use
like that's the biggest difference.
Yeah. Rich and I use two different tactics. I do exactly what Garrett does with the shift cut, and Rich, you basically use a strain gauge.
Well, I use
remember talking to Rich on the first race week, I think, about it. Huh?
Yeah, you were the one that told me, and then I did some digging, and I have to pay Canadian prices for our U.S. prices, and our Canadian dollar sucks. So I did a bunch of research looking for a shift cut knob after chatting with you, and then I actually bought it from Czechoslovakia, is where I bought the one that I use. But you know, it's actually something that I never thought about, Jamie, is that do you teach yourself to not pull as hard when you look at the strain gauge? Like,
yep.
That's
so
cool.
if you look at, Brent has them in all of our videos, the difference on my driving from the Integra that I do like race week and stuff with the synchrotrans to this car that I use the strain gauge. I'm a total different driver in this car with the strain gauge. It's very relaxed and mellow. I'm sure you've seen it. There's a video of a foreign guy driving a stacker bus and he's shifting like this. With the strain gauge, that's how you describe shifting these. You know, you literally, with the cut, it'll glide right into each of the gears.
Yeah, it just glides. So smooth.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It does that with my shift cut knob too, but I don't have any data how hard I'm pulling. So this last time that I broke a shift fork, I mean, I have no idea if it was me trying to jam it in after it broke or it broke because I was pulling so hard. But that's one piece of the strain gauge that I learned something new every podcast. So that's pretty cool, Jamie.
Yeah. So ours, like the strain gauge in my car, the sensor is in the handle itself, not in the knob.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is the adjustment on the sensitivity on that we've noticed. And with mine being in the handle, I can actually touch the knob a little early and it doesn't cut it. You know, we've been able to, you know, over the last 100 passes, refine it to my driving. You know, in Brent's car, we put a strain in his sequential and he made the first couple passes without it. And he said it was night and day difference once it was in there.
Once it was done, it's sweet.
So it's safe to say that using a strain gauge versus a shift cut, it's like the difference between jelly and jam.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
So you know how hard you have to pull on your shifter still. Go watch some videos of us with the strains and how it just glides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And mine doesn't have a strain at all.
Oh, go ahead. And I can see the advantage to what Garrett and you are doing. Garrett and Bill are doing. Just because you already got all that tension. You hit the cut and it goes right into gear. So that amount of time is definitely up there. What the strain would allow you to do is move the RPM limiter up a little bit, and then you put your shift light just right about where you would shift now, and then it just be smooth. So, I feel like it'd be the same,
and it's
just
also
be able to stretch it.
Easier on parts is what I've seen. That's always how I'm looking at it, because I'm just a poor mechanic. That's all we all really are. We're just how can we make it go as fast as we can and not spend all of our money?
Well, and honestly, Rich and I had this conversation. Race the drag and drive events, like winning is awesome, but if you don't finish, you'll never win.
Yeah.
So longevity is as big of a piece of the game as trying to be competitive. You've got to finish.
you know, my Integra that I do the stick shift class in, it is definitely not the fastest car there by any means. You know, the last 2 years, I think its average has been like a 1034. But I've made it to the podium on the last day, the last 2 years, because of faster cars braking, just keeping it together and getting it there.
Attrition, man, it's a killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about the stick shift, you know, world with, you know, that's why after race week, after you guys let us in, we started racing that elsewhere, you know, FL2K and stuff, because there is that attrition factor, you know, it adds something else in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that Rich has got these radials and he's running really fast, I might just enter the outlaw class and pray for attrition.
Sometimes you can definitely get away with that.
Oh man.
Hey, what's your car weigh, Bill?
Mine is 37 now with me in it. And I spent last winter, I spent a bunch of time in money, if you can imagine that, dropping 95 pounds. I mean, I built an aluminum exhaust, a couple other things here and there. Like it's still a full-on street car, double bench seats, you know, all that. Still got a radio and a heater, but it's 37 with me in it. So
okay,
yeah, mine's lightweight though. So
yeah.
What's yours weigh?
At Sick Week when it went 877, it was, and I dumped a little bit of water out of my cooler at the top of the track, and then went over the scales, and it was 4,027.
Yeah. That's like 2 Civics.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I got twice the engine though, so it all works out.
That is true. All right, so now we're gonna change it up and go into Rich and my favorite transmission. That's a T56, and that's got 6th gear. So 6th gear is what advice? Whoa, I know. Look at that. What advice would you give? What advice would you give someone getting into this sport?
I mean, cars are going to teach you patience and how to cuss.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But, you know, I think just be, you know, patient, learn from everybody around you, you know, and keep pushing forward. You'll achieve what you're after. Just surround yourself with good folks and make it happen.
Nice. All right. Well,
I want to hear Jamie's answer. Same answer.
Yeah,
that's right.
So I think pretty much don't limit yourself. Don't ever feel like somebody else has already tried it and it won't work. If you think something will work, just try it. Go with whatever direction you want to go. You know, because there was probably somebody way back in the day that said you can't go fast in a Honda Civic. And here we are going fast.
You'll never go that fast.
You know, I'm sure there's plenty of guys telling you guys build a lighter car. You know, do what makes you happy and do it your way. And you know, you might make some mistakes, but just learn from it.
I can't wait to see you show up. One of you guys show up. Probably be you, Jamie, at the World Cup with radials on the front of your Civic, and they're like, "What is that guy gonna do?"
Yeah,
and you slip your
there
clutch.
was actually a guy last year brought a front-wheel drive Civic to World Cup on radials, and he tried it. It didn't work out for him, but somebody will get that going someday.
The slipper clutch could be the key to all of that.
That's kind of what we've been talking about.
I think so too.
Because it would help to keep the tires inflated on the top end. We'd definitely get faster.
Yeah.
All right. So huge shout out. Thank you to Stick Shift Nation for hosting the podcast. Travis Foster kills it. He makes us all look good. And you can find Clutch Burners podcast on 10 different platforms. And if you'd like to see the podcast continue and grow, head over to stickracing.com, grab a Stick Shift Nation shirt, hat, or sticker. And also, I don't have it on tonight, but Clutch Burner shirts are live. If you want to grab a badass Clutch Burner shirt, head to stickracing.com. I'm pretty sure you're going to see me and Rich sporting these bad boys at PRI this coming week. So that's it, man. We really appreciate you guys coming on here. And
thanks for having us.
Yeah, we'll drop your we'll put your links and stuff in the call it show notes. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
awesome,
thanks
man.
so much for your time. And it's fantastic that you could join too, Jamie. I was super excited when I saw you on there because I didn't get to finish your last video. I was just watching it on there. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for
And
having us, guys.
Yeah, and you can hang out for a second, but we'll cut it here. So on to PRI. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.